Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I am back to share this Halloween card featuring Not Too Shabby's Happy Halloween stamp set along with Trinity Stamps Slimline Forest border die. I had some frustrations creating this card, I'm not gonna lie, and I can tell you guys all about it. I did cut most of it out because it would have been ridiculously long. I am creating this Halloween card because I thought these characters were super adorable. It is an older set that I decided to pull out because Halloween is coming up next weekend and it's coming up so soon. I really am only able to use this set around Halloween, and I know that I could repurpose it and use it in different ways, but I thought it was a perfect occasion to pull it out. It's super cute. I stamped out the two witches with Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is Copic friendly, and I'm coloring with Copic markers. I'm sticking with very Halloween-y colors, so I'm going to go with purple and green, and then I put pops of yellow just for a little bit of brightness, and there is some black for her hair and her leggings as well. So I thought it would be really cute to put this card together using these characters, and I had so many different ideas which didn't pan out, and that ended up with a fairly simple card that I probably could have put together a lot faster if I didn't have so many issues. Originally, I was going to go and create a moving shaker card, which I've created many times on my channel. It's just a frameless shaker made from acetate and tape, and then there's a moving part in here. The moving part was going to be the witch on the broom because I wanted her kind of to look like she was flying through the night sky, and then there's a forest underneath her where the other witch is standing. And I had nixed that idea because once I put it together and I put the die cuts for the forest at the bottom of the card, I thought that the string that would be holding her, which is just clear thread, would keep catching on the tree. It just didn't move as well as I wanted it to, and so I nixed that idea. The second card that I created, I got to almost the end and almost finished the card, but I adhered the witch on my card panel inside, and when I filled it with these glittery bits for the shaker parts, it just was so hard to see her, and it didn't work out. I didn't like it. I wanted her to be on the outside, but I already had glued her down, and there was no way I was going to be able to take her off without it being super noticeable and having to recreate the whole background and recreate the entire card panel because I already had taped down my shaker and my acetate to the card panel. I decided not to do that, and I just went with a really simple card because I was just about to give up, but I already had colored these images and I really wanted to use her. I actually had to recolor the girl on the broom because I had glued her onto my other card panel. But I already had the one that was standing ready to go, and she just had to go into a card. So that's what I did. I ended up with a pretty simple card, which I'll be putting together very quickly. So once I stamped out the girl, I fussy cut her and started working on my card panel. I took a piece of black cardstock along with 3 of these bright distressed oxide colors and just created a background. I put it onto the card panel, super messy, there's no rhyme or reason, I just want the color on there. It will create my night sky. I use picked raspberry, squeezed lemonade, Mermaid, Lagoon, which are really bright and they show up well on black cardstock. I also went in with black soot to kind of ink up the edges and kind of tone down some of that color because it is still fairly bright. This doesn't look like much of a night sky until you add splatter. So that's what I did. I just went ahead and grabbed my white gouache, mixed it with a teeny bit of water just to get it moving, and I am splattering it all over my background. And I think that I love when I do galaxy skies because as messy as it looks, once you add that white splatter, it looks so good. For my forest, I went ahead and die cut 2 of the Slimline forest border dies on this dark green foresty cardstock, and that's all I needed because they are meant for slimline size, but I really wanted to cut it down. Because I was layering one on top of another, I wanted to add a bit of dimension, and I had tried layering them on top of each other without inking up the edges, and it looked kind of flat. It also kind of blended in with each other and you couldn't tell the difference. Learning what I did from my previous cards, I also wanted to pop up my second layer up on foam just to give that added dimension, because here you can kind of tell that there are 2 layers of trees, but it kind of gets lost in the mix. So for the first layer, I went ahead and just glued it down directly onto my card panel using liquid glue. And you'll see that I add a strip of black at the bottom of my card panel as well. And that was a mistake, because once I added the second layer of trees on foam, it looked ridiculous that the ground was behind the trees, if that makes sense. So I wanted everything to make sense, and I ended up cutting another piece of black cardstock and popping that on foam just so it matches the dimension of the trees as well. As you can tell, I struggle through this card, and I think as card makers, we all struggle. We all have that one card that just really took forever to make, and this was that card for me, and I'm sharing it with you guys. So for the second layer, I popped it up on foam. I just cut out tiny little pieces and popped it up, and I think that it just really helps differentiate the trees in the back and the trees in the front, and adds that dimension that I really wanted. So I already had an idea of where everything was going to go. The witch on the broom was going to go in the sky, and then the one that was just standing was going to go in front on the ground. And because that ground looked weird, I went ahead and took the ground die in the Slimline Forest border die set and used it to cut a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to pop that up on foam. I also realized later that my card panel is a little bit too big for an A2 size, and I have to trim it down. If you guys know, trimming down with foam is not the best idea. I didn't really think about it. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal on my paper trimmer, but it was. It created some problems. Let's talk about the sentiments first. So I went ahead and stamped the sentiments directly on the card panel, which I should have done before I popped it up on foam, but it worked out, thankfully. I just stamped it with some Versamark ink and add some white embossing powder to it, and I heat set it. I was so over this card by this point that I just tossed my card panel into that Tupperware of embossing powder, and I took a brush and brushed off all the excess. I was super careful with it. I did prep the area with my anti-static powder tool, but for some reason everything was sticking, and I don't know what it was. So yeah, I was able to heat set that sentiment, and I decided that once I heat set that sentiment, the sky area just looks really empty, so I decided to pull out another sentiment, and it just says boo. I thought it'd be cute. I am doing the same thing. I'm stamping with Versamark ink and covering it in embossing powder, and then I'll heat set it. Thankfully, everything was dry already. I really didn't even think about it because I had added the white splatter. I had inked this up. I was really lucky that it didn't stick. Once I had the sentiments ready, went ahead and added glue all over my little characters and adhered them to my card panel. Once I finished adhering everything, this is where I realized that my panel was a little bit bigger than an A2 size. I didn't think it was a big deal to put it through my paper trimmer, even with the foam, because I feel like I've done it before and not had any issues cutting, but this time I had issues cutting, and it kind of warped my paper at the bottom and ripped it. So I ended up going in with a pair of scissors and trimming it down. I ended up matting it on a piece of light purple cardstock, which actually ended up looking a lot better than just the card panel itself, because it brought color to the card, and it also makes you focus on the images themselves. Once I did that, I added double-sided adhesive to it, popped it up on that light purple cardstock, and I am done with this card. I'm never making this again. It's a pretty simple card, but for some reason I had so much trouble. I hope you enjoyed this card and the tales that came along with it, and I will see you guys next time with another one. Bye!